Call our budget committee meeting to order for February 20th. We've got a quorum present with another member who is should be zooming in. Conflict.
I think you'll be here in person.
Oh, he'll be in person. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Joe. Conflict of interest disclosure. This is on all agendas for committees and boards. If any item on the agenda you have a bias or you stand to benefit financially, you're asked to disclose that and withdraw from any discussion or vote. And we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 15th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Jim's motion, and Shelley seconds. Any suggested corrections? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Joe, any adjustments to the agenda?
None. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Old business fire rescue, we've got the chief here with us. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Steve Grant Jr. here as well, so thank you, Steve.
For those that don't know, Steve Grant just received a promotion to deputy chief, so
Wow,
He's-
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes. Ah,
he's part of my budget team. So.
okay, wonderful. So Chief, in our notes, it indicates that the fire rescue department is seeing an increase of $106,375. It includes compensation increases, budgeting for a second full-time firefighter, increase in fringe benefits, training costs, supplies, repair and maintenance of vehicles, an increase in emergency reporting software. So where would you like to start?
I was just going to ask you that. Would you like to go
Well,
from the top of the list, or just hit me with some questions you may have?
well, we could start, the budget page for fire rescue starts with salary and wages, so we can start there. So a second full-time firefighter, is that taking up a large chunk of this, Chief?
Yes, it's the wages line. Yes. What we're seeing currently, if you don't mind me just stepping into it a little bit.
No.
Deputy Chief Neto was supposed to be here. He broke his knee. He has my paperwork, so I frantically tried to piece together the project so it's not, I can't put it in your hands. But what I can tell you is region-wide, most of you know we don't just cover Rangeley, we cover plantations as well. Region-wide, due to the increased construction, we're seeing new homes, remodels, Saddleback Mountain, we're seeing our ISO shift, and that's our protection rating for insurances. And as we look into that, we looked at where we sit, where Rangeley Fire sits in the scheme of things in the state. So out of 386 fire departments in the state, we are ranked 70. We're the 70th busiest department, which is in the top 20%. What we did is we broke down and we compared us to the top 10 departments above us and the top 10 departments below us. So we basically surveyed 20 departments. Out of those 20, they are all full-time with the exception of 2. One of them, Brownville, which is covered by Milo. That kind of is a wash there because Milo has full-time firefighters. But we're behind. We're behind in the trend. We're behind in keeping up with our protection rating. We've recently seen Saddleback slip to an ISO 10, and they're having trouble getting insurances for some of their properties that are in Dallas Plantation. We're going to see that trend start to slip across the board. I have people call me and state that their insurances have gone up, 100 here, 200 there. Commercial businesses, insurance is going up. So in an attempt to mitigate that, excuse me, currently we're only staffed Monday through Friday during the day. I'm not suggesting we go 24/7 just yet. I think it is in our future, and I think that will come out in the comprehensive plan. But I do think we need one more person to start shifting to 7-day coverage. So we're on the weekends, because we are getting, as you know, we're a tourist destination, we're getting busy. So the second firefighter is basically based on the first firefighter, no changes in the pay that we had established years ago. I'm not sure where the union sits, but that's out of my wheelhouse. So that's where we're at. Do you have any questions? Our call volume is up. We have become busier and busier. It's kind of the post-COVID, like we're busy. People are coming to Rangeley buying homes, and our call volume is going up. Any questions?
So, so Chief, with the call volume, going up, I mean, you've talked about the increase in building and structures, so is it more, false fire alarms, is it gas, is it, I mean, there's a big.
Well, let's dive into my day a little bit. So it's not all fire alarms, it's not all emergencies. We are also the kind of the point of contact for insurance companies. So if somebody's building a new house or changing insurances, we get a questionnaire, we're going over, we're looking at a property, we're going over fire response to that property, if there's a hydrant. So we're doing a lot of research there. We're also doing community outreach, a lot this year with Dallas Plantation, a lot of emergency management mitigation, kind of comes along with the territory. We're doing a lot more, it's called NFPA Life Safety 101. It's not quite an evaluation. We're kind of a point that if somebody has a question and it's regarding NFPA 101, which is life safety and building codes, and it kind of corresponds with code enforcement, we're busier there as well. And then on top of that, you put the increase in traffic. We have seen a lot of vehicle accidents. We've seen a lot of snowmobile accidents. You name it, we've seen it lately, to a pretty graphic extent. So we're out there, we're busy, and as well as that comes with paperwork.
You mentioned Saddleback, the ISO rating of 10. So I guess my concern is, at what point do we not take on Saddleback's coverage and they start addressing their own needs?
So what I can tell you is that these conversations have already happened with the management team, the legal team at Saddleback. Rangeley, and I made it very clear, we're not in a position where one of our firefighters is going to be placed there unless they take the initiative and get an apparatus up there and pay for the firefighter themselves. This firefighter would be strictly to run out of the stations in town here to cover the calls that might come in. If you're worried about it being a position that slides up there, we're not there. Did that answer your question?
It
Or your
does.
concern?
Yeah, it does. I just,
We've put a solution in their lap, whether they pick up on it or not, it's up to them.
okay,
But we're not looking to build infrastructure up there,
yeah.
and we're not looking to put our personnel up there unless they are compensated.
Directly, I mean, like
Correct.
out of their pocket, not
Correct.
adding to.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it too deeply, but at some point, we may need to look at how we're charging or
Okay,
billing for our contracted services.
well, and they've got a new development that's,
There's a lot going on up there.
Yeah.
But, so think about this, and then I'm gonna stop talking, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. But if you think of an upside down umbrella, and we're throwing all these new property values in, eventually that umbrella is going to fold and spill out. We're very close to that happening. It's happened at Saddleback. We're very close to it happening here. The only benefit we have right now is we are rated ISO 551. So we have 4 steps to go. But it's coming, and we really need to get ahead of it.
Does,
Yeah,
does
go
part
ahead.
of that ISO rating have to do with any training?
Yes,
Or-
there's
because-
about 100 questions, and the amount of hours put in for training, yes.
Okay, because there was a comment, I don't know if it's in here or not, because I'm new. I'm just
Okay, no,
starting,
go
so
ahead.
I'm Kitty, by the way. So, but there was, they had said there was some recommendation to remove some of the training,
I
or
would
to
not
skip it this year.
training as in the
Was
$7,000
it the annual?
line.
Yeah.
So that was a
That was last
discussion
year?
on why was it not used, which it hadn't been used last year, and that,
Okay,
I think
the-
the explanation was because the repair and maintenance.
So
So you'll
last-
be using it, it's in here for this year.
Yes,
To make sure you know.
so there's about 4,000 some odd that's pending for that line that hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
So I'm responsible for balancing my budget, and we had some vehicle maintenance that cropped up last year, a little bit this year. And when my lines are going up, I don't feel it's appropriate to go myself and a couple firefighters to go to Indianapolis for training when we have responsibilities here. So that's why it was not spent last year.
But the training and all of that will help you get your certifications that you.
Certifications, amount of
yeah.
hours, yes, it's quite, it's intensive, there's a lot to it, but that is one of the ISO ratings. There's
Okay.
about 100 different questions on those ratings.
Okay, and Chief, you're a certified instructor, so you
Yes.
can take
And
on quite a bit.
yes, and we've actually sent a few more firefighters to that class, so one is actually testing right now, and
Right
I'm
this
waiting for his certification up there, but, so yeah, so we have a goal to offer more training to our firefighters as well as community outreach programs. I just can't do it all myself.
Yeah.
So we're making steps to grow in that direction and get the certifications here.
Did that answer your question, Katie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Why haven't you split up the schedule? Why do you have why do you have your full-time firefighter on the same time you are? If you need better coverage, why isn't it Wednesday through Sunday or instead of Monday through Friday?
But
I gotta ask.
Well, it's something we can look at, but remember, I'm the administrator. And, I try to work when the town office folks are here. Camden is the full-time firefighter. I do obviously shift with him and work with him when the emergency arises. But I know some of you listen to Scanners, I'm out Saturday and Sunday as well. I would like to I'd like to back off a little bit.
Well, and that's the reason for my question,
Yeah.
is why not have someone on the weekend so you're not pulled out?
It would be nice in the ISO rating, I do not count. I count as a chief officer, I do not count as a firefighter. So the points do matter when they add up to the one. I would like more, I'd like to get more protection out there for the community. I'd like to be ready to respond quickly and adequately. It is nice to have the call firefighters that are coming in 4 and 5 minutes afterwards, but an immediate response can save lives.
I think that's the biggest reason why I supported having this in the budget is that we had, I think I mentioned it publicly a while ago, we have some folks who have retired and some folks who have just moved on. So as I understand it, that number of people who are going out is not immediately being replaced. Number one. Number two, they're not always available. If they're working at their day job or wherever they're working, those folks nationwide, we're seeing a trend in this, they're not available to respond. And they may not be, so they may be able to respond, but they may not be able to be there as quickly as somebody who is at the station, ready to go. If they're on station, ready to respond, they can get there,
With the
get an
adequate,
assessment. So a lot of times that time is critical. Chief can talk
with the
more about
adequate
that.
training, because as folks are retiring out, We've got a new kid that's great, he wants to learn the training, but we get volunteers, but they don't wanna be a firefighter, they wanna do traffic or be a part of the group or on the association.
We don't, we don't have those numbers as far as in and out, you know, what you've lost for firefighters.
It feels like a lot because we've lost air pack trained firefighters, and that's
Oh.
where it hurts us. We lost Tony Clark, he retired and moved away.
Right,
We have no control over that. We lost the Wakefields for employment.
right.
Who else?
Yeah, we should kind of shy away from using names. Chief.
Oh, sorry, so,
But-
yes, we.
But the moral of the story that Chief bringing, I'm glad you brought it up, air pack, probably the most critical thing, you know, to have. So if they're a full-time firefighter, they're gonna be trained on that, they're gonna be expected.
Mhm.
Will there be minimum training requirements?
I think another critical point is the years of experience all those people had.
Mhm.
Tony had at least 40,
Right.
Johnny had, 15, 20,
Mhm.
that's a lot of years of experience that we're losing.
So my concern, okay, you know, the same schedule, you know, the Monday through Friday schedule with your current full-time firefighter. And I guess I don't want, again, I don't want the town of Rangeley to bear the brunt of Saddleback needing extra services or extra calls when they should seriously look at. I mean, I'm just,
Well, I would remind you that the citizens of Rangeley only pay between 40 and 51% of the budget, and the rest of it does go to Saddleback, Dallas. My recommendation would be 24/7 coverage, but I don't think you want to hear that from me right now.
you need some heavy numbers. You need,
Yeah.
you want to see some really specific numbers.
I'm trying to get us to where we should be without scaring people. So,
Appreciate all the information. I'm gonna chew on it.
all right,
And I'd like to, if I could add, when he had mentioned about how we look at our formulas and billing, we really do need to take a different look at that. And I don't think the way that we have been doing it all these years is actually the solution.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah, Shelley
I
mentioned that.
see that number that I see every year, and I'm like, people need to start paying more, for what they have for services, because including the county, because most of your accidents are by the Appalachian Trail, right on that corner.
there are a lot
There are a lot there.
but that wouldn't be the majority of it. We can break it down by numbers.
Oh, yeah, because the county actually break it down by numbers.
The one thing I'm afraid of, if we had a meeting, I can't remember how many months ago, with, in the Franklin County Commissioner's office. And some of the terminology was brought up that I did not like, which was call by call basis. And we cannot be, you cannot prepare like that, because there's a bit of readiness that goes with everything and the equipment and just making sure everything is upkeep. And if we go down the road of charging call by call, I'd be worried about that.
Oh, that would be wrong.
So.
Yeah.
I think it's best to ease into the county commissioners. Joe, I believe, talks with them quite often, so.
The county administrator, I think, yeah. We haven't talked at length about this, but we've had some preliminary discussions about what's going on. But I agree with Chief on a readiness factor, and that's one of the things with the ambulance service we talked about this fall, last fall, I should say, is we need to increase the fee that everyone pays. But that, I know we're not talking about that right now, but there's an understanding that you gotta be ready with emergency services, whether it's a PD or a fire department or whatever it is. There's a requirement to have these folks on station or available with the equipment and the training to make it happen. So, yeah, I mean, could you mathematically at the end retrospectively look back and divide it by the number of calls? Yeah, you can do that, but I don't think that's a good way prospectively to approach it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not proactive. And unfortunately, the fire department has like all these tentacles out in the community where we're tied in so much. So you neglect one aspect, a few years down the road, your insurance is going up, and then you take care of it 1 year, your insurance is going down. it's a roller coaster.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's how many miles you live from the fire station.
Yes.
It's not like everything else, it's just.
It's not
how many
everything you
miles.
can
It-
control.
It breaks down, that's why we're split 5-5 Everybody living within the hydrant district is basically having credits on their insurance, it's a cheaper rate. Then as you go further, you turn into a 5Y, 6, and it goes up as you go further down.
Now, do you have a commitment from the water district to keep those fire hydrants going? I know you had a problem at the end there, right by the IGA, when they couldn't get that to pump and you ended up having to take it out of the lake, I think, I can't remember
Well,
exactly.
that happens. Obviously, the water district is well, they work for the town, they're not a town entity, is that the best way to look at it? So they charge us a fee for the hydrants every year, we'll see it in here later
Okay.
on. And they are, I would assume, have an obligation to keep those hydrants in service, because we're paying a fee that includes maintenance for those hydrants.
So have you thought about doing like on the weekends and stuff like that? I can't remember if I mentioned it in the past, about having, because you have a lot of senior officers that have been around for a very, very long time. Have you thought about maybe compensating them for like on-call pay to give yourself a break on the weekends or?
We have done it, it's not officially, or we have had those conversations, it's not officially in the budget. But because of some of my lines going over, like vehicle maintenance, I feel if I do the work, it saves a little money. I hate to say that, but we have had those discussions, we have had instances where we put per diem firefighters on some of the busier weekends.
It doesn't solve the problem, it kicks the can down the road. I don't think it really solves the problem, it kicks the can down the road a little bit.
No, but I would like the full-time firefighter as well as an officer that can do it per diem. Just like be on call in case an incident comes in, would give me a little bit more time. Yes,
I was just saying, I think it's important that the budget really reflect, because if something happens to you and there's nobody there to do the maintenance, you really need to make sure that you're, giving honest, real.
right, we do have checks and balances. We have a phone app which is called I'm Responding. If I go out of town, there's a notice that goes out, and so there's always that backup there. And sometimes if there's nobody available, I don't go out of town, which is just part of the job, so. All right, we beat that one. What's next on this?
Do we charge them
Let's
rent?
keep on going.
Do we charge the plantations rent for renting the town office building for the park?
So they actually pay for part of the public safety buildings budget. So that is included.
Okay, good.
You know, hydrants, fire, public safety building. I think that's it. That's all portioned out with depending 48 to 51%, and then the rest.
Okay.
So one of the things I said, because the plantations, because I remember back in the day, a certain plantation was upset with feeling that if there was any money that wasn't spent in the budget, that it would go into the town of Rangeley's general fund, not into the fire department. So now we pay in arrears.
Right. Okay.
And one of the things I said was, why aren't we charging them interest? Because we're using our money where we could invest that money. I'm just saying,
That's not even my
No, it's-
responsibility.
I
I'm
just
gonna
have to
pass
keep
one
plugging
off.
that in because
Yeah.
it's free money. I mean, you can't use a credit card and not get billed the next month. So I'm just saying,
I'll defer.
just my point.
Anything else I can answer for anybody?
Anything else?
What are the percentage of calculations for the plantations?
I'm sorry?
The percentage of calculations for the plantations?
It changes every year depending on the evaluation, if the valuation changes and if the population changes. So typically, like he said, it's anywhere Rangeley 47, 48, 49, 50%, but and then.
So it has to do with the
broken out.
numbers. It's not basically a percentage of the budget that they would pay.
Well, they pay a percentage of the budget based on population,
Valuation.
valuation.
But I always, like I told Tim before, why isn't it acreage? Cause you bill for the acreage.
I'm not saying I'm
I'm
not
just
saying
saying.
it's perfect, I'm not saying it's.
Oh, I
out
know,
of
it's like
date. I don't
old,
wanna-
it's like the
I don't want that
oldest
to come out of my mouth here, but
equation, yeah,
times are changing.
right.
Um,
And I mean, and I know that Saddleback, because they've already came to the economic development group, and there was like, we've gotta do something where we have to get coverage up in Dallas, and I like, you can pay for the building and you can pay for the person,
And
so.
that's pretty much what we stated,
Yeah.
and we gave them a proposal, and I think they're really chewing on it, but they're driving a lot of the tourism, they're driving, I wouldn't say it's a lot of calls up there, but they're driving some calls up there.
Right.
They've driven the insurance rate,
Well, at one
the
point,
protection
weren't they?
rating too high up there.
There was a lot of fire alarms up there.
Well, that's gonna happen
At one point.
regardless, so you can say that the same for Classic and here, it happens, it's just part of the job. But yeah, their ISO rating has slipped. And it's trickling down,
So what kind of percentage have you looked at for increases just for the call line, not including the assistant ones for the ambulance that you go on? Because there's sometimes you beat the ambulance before the ambulance gets to the call.
so. I'm not gonna get into that right now,
Okay.
the whole ambulance thing, I didn't generate any of those numbers.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm used to generating them for the select board. But I have no problem, if you'd like to see those numbers, I can send it over to Joe for your next meeting, he can give it to you.
Right.
It recently went out a packet to the plantations in the quarterly meeting, I can get it for you, I just don't have it.
I'm just thinking, because transparency is everything. I mean, if you want everybody on the same team you're on, I can't sell it to somebody at the grocery store that says, are you kidding me? You're gonna do another person? Anyways.
Yeah, I can spitball the numbers, I wanna say we're vehicle accidents are 46%. EMS is like 13 or 14. But those are just going off the top of my head, I can actually print up a nice graph.
Yeah, just to get that percentage of the calls, then it's
Yep.
just.
You have
something.
it, you have it in a year-over-year basis, so we can
I can
show
give you,
people
I
how
can
it's
give you,
increased.
yeah, we generally do numbers based on 3-year increments, so I can give you the past 3 years.
Great,
Yeah.
Or
awesome,
I
chief.
will send it up with the Thursday,
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday, yeah,
you'll have it Thursday.
thank you very much. Any other questions for Chief Bacon? Yeah, Shelley.
So the part-time wages, going back,
Part-time?
Yep. So they have stayed at the 38,000 throughout.
Mhm.
And originally, I remember you saying you wanted to keep it that way because after you hired the full-time person. Because just in case.
Correct, because you don't know
Right.
what you're gonna have.
So is that a number that could be adjusted if you are actually looking to add another person to your
Adjusted down.
adjusted down? Yeah.
Could I get back to you? There could
No,
be-
I'm just throwing
there could
that
be-
out.
There could be some compromise there. I'd really have to look at what kind of calls we're getting in for the weekend. I'd have to look at to see if, I call them dub calls, but there's a lot of calls that Camden and I handle during the day.
Mhm.
And we request over the radio no tones, because we can handle it without calling the whole call force out.
Right.
I'd have to look at Saturday and Sunday's trend. But yes, there could be, if the town were to go for another full-time firefighter, I think with Saturday, Sunday, I'd have to educate myself to make a proper.
I think one thing to keep in mind here, something we talked about earlier with the paradigm of having a full-time firefighter and an officer, per diem officer on staff, this is where that per diem officer would come from. So I think and that's a model that I support. Chief knows I support per diem.
Well, it's
You
a
and I
model
talked
that's
about that.
used elsewhere in the state as well.
So I wouldn't wanna right away knock that down. I think it should probably be in that neighborhood for that reason, for per diem purposes, whether it's an officer or not.
I think just looking at the prior 2 years' actuals, just kind of generates, a natural request to look at it,
I have no problem looking at it, I can sit down with Joe and actually print the numbers that I need to make an educated recommendation.
Appreciate that, chief.
a thing to look at, and I don't know if you can do the numbers or whatever, but recently, there's been a lot of calls where you're getting 2 calls at the same time.
2 or 3 calls, yeah.
2 or 3 calls, yes, at the same time, and then maybe, the ambulance is out of town and you're having to respond to that, and so, I mean, there has been a large increase of calls at the same time.
Is it this time of year that, because
It's
of the
become All kinds of
recreation?
years for
Yes.
us
Okay.
now. It used to be winter, especially around snow and but it's, Donald, do you wanna help me out on this?
Yeah, it's more
Different
evened out
perspective.
now, it's not just spikes, it's more consistent. It's usually spikes on the weekend for snowy hours and special events,
Mhm.
but now it seems more consistent. Ambulances out of town, more consistent now, so we're having to respond. Because the next closest truck, if it's in Phillips, would be Arlington, which has been coming up here regularly.
We recently had a cardiac event at the wellness center
Yes,
They came out of Arlington.
that was
and had to wait a while.
an eternity.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And there are strict rules of what we can and can't do as a fire department.
Sure.
So when you're waiting that long, it is an eternity.
Mhm.
But thankfully, we had police department there was to help us and the police board came off duty as EMT. But yes, yeah,
It's like serious life threatening, like I was witnessed him save somebody's life, literally.
Yeah.
Like, and it's getting more and more, it's staggering, it really is.
so
Thank you.
there need to be
All right, are there any other questions for Chief Bacon? Next up on the agenda under new business is the police department. So this is our first time reviewing the police department budget. That begins on page 33. The summary indicates an increase of $97,252. This reflects increases in compensation, budgeting for a 3rd full-time officer, increases in fringe benefits, safety supplies, purchase of 2 new AEDs, and increase in utilities. All right,
Ready?
yeah.
Okay. So we typically don't spend a lot of time recently talking about salaries and so forth, but I guess I can tell you publicly, Chief French has resigned, so we may want to think about where this is at in the scheme of things in terms of traction. I don't have any numbers on that yet, but I'll come back to you with that. 3rd officer, so this is, to be clear, currently we have in the budget 2 full-time officers and 1 full-time chief. This is talking about 3 full-time officers and 1 full-time chief. So there's an increase there. That's the bulk of the increase from 97. So make sure we have that. To reiterate, we still have union negotiations going on. Those are ongoing. So with a lot of these departments, we'll know towards the end what the number's going to be, and we can plug in. AEDs, we mentioned that the other day. That's something that we're trying to plug into the budget in a couple of places. Safety supplies. I think some of that was bulletproof vest, or you'll have to remind me about that.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah, we need to update the vest. Okay, chime in, Jared, if there's something you think, missed, or. And utilities, remind me what the utilities one was.
Is that the software we're gonna have to? pretty much pay
It
for?
was the telephone,
This is
It
page
went up
36.
$500, well, it's for 3rd officer. It went up $500.
Okay, thank you. So that's the explanation for that.
So I have a question. So is part of the increase, for a new chief?
No, that has not been incorporated yet, so that's one of the things that, is fairly recent, and I would have to come back to you. What that number would be if it's different than this one's here. The majority of the increase is to fund a third full-time officer, so currently there are 2 in the budget. We're proposing a third in this budget, in addition to the.
But was there a normal increase anticipated if he had stayed? I guess is what I'm saying.
So, well, yeah, so to answer that question, I understand now. So there are 2, there's an initial, in that column is from the department, and then the manager is consistent with what I disclosed earlier about
That you'd be at.
percentage, yeah,
Okay.
kind of a percentage.
So just to piggyback on Kitty's question here, so the note on the side is for the chief's salary, an increase of $5 per hour plus 3.2 cost of living.
That's the initial.
That's the request,
That's the
initial request. Okay.
And everyone
So
else is 4?
So that was the initial request.
The
His request
manager.
would be under manager requests.
And that's 4%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus,
Yeah.
plus, retention stipends, yeah, bonuses for retention.
So obviously looking at the prior, 2 years actuals, raising all this money for, taxpayers and not being able to hire a second full-time officer. I know last year, Joe, there was an initial discussion about hiring, a third full-time officer, but we haven't been able to hire a second full-time officer for, I think we're going on year 3.
The main reason for that is we're really not competitive with wages, and that hasn't gotten through the bargaining process at this point. I think that has a lot to do with why we're not attractive. I'm sure there are other reasons, but that's probably one of the primary ones.
We have a salary survey or something for that, to show that? Or are you comparing the 2? I know that if there was increases in Farmington, there was increases in Farmington and the county. And at the same time, the window of the contract had already closed. So I get that there's gonna be increase compared into the comparables, but I just, for the call volume that's for the town of Rangeley, I have a hard time with having 3 full-time officers to justify what the call volume is. I mean, I don't know what the goal is for that.
I don't think call volume has actually been presented to anybody yet, so I'm not sure. We could get you what the call volume is, but that's not been presented to anybody, so I don't know how.
Oh, I thought they had it in the selectmen packages each month,
Oh,
that it had been done in the past.
yeah, this meeting, like,
It's all public, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually a monthly call volume.
Yeah, it's been a couple months since we've done that. That's one way to approach it. Another way to approach it is just generally level of service. What do you want to have for coverage? I think with 3, Jerry, you'll have to step in here if I'm incorrect. I think with 3 officers, well, I can do the math in my head, that's 120 hours. 4 would give you 160-ish. So it gets you closer to being not quite 24/7, but closer, and it gives time for vacations and leaves and those type of things. And it provides, somebody in the town who's on duty almost all the time. Currently, we're not there, as we know. I mean, nobody will dispute that. We're not at that level currently. To get there, this is a minimum of what it's gonna take with our department to do that.
So we're currently the lowest paid starting wage in Franklin County. Everybody has far surpassed us, and that's why we're not getting applications. And we do need three full-time officers for the chief. The chief's position has, now that I'm sitting in doing day work, I'm having to do everything. And it's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done right, that a chief shouldn't be working here. And he shouldn't be on patrol here. He could provide a backup role, but we need officers out there patrolling, being visible. And we're completely reactionary. We have no outreach programs. There's nobody in the school anymore. There's so much that's being missed because we don't have the manpower. And that is because we're the lowest paid. Our benefit packages, the county is much more expensive. Their benefits are much better than ours. No one's going to come here. And I mean, to say that we don't have the call volume, there's been numerous times that the sheriff's office is an hour away, and it's been happening more and more frequently. And you're gonna see people in the town meetings tonight, I think, that are gonna be voicing that concern, giving you direct examples of how the sheriff's office is worse, because they've got people under arrest. They went from covering half the county with their manpower. They got it all now, state police is gone, so they're so busy, they're doing much more than what they had to, but Rangeley does have stuff that's coming in. There's numerous calls on the weekend where they'll try to reach me, and he goes out to everything, I can't, I have responsibilities. I'm already providing 70 hours of coverage a week. Things have changed here, things have significantly changed here. We're all seeing it.
And technically, you do have 2 counties that are in town, so if something happens and it hits a fan, they come out.
Well, 2 weeks ago, they called me, so Sergeant Close called me, and when a sergeant calls me, typically I'll answer my phone, but if it's dispatch, I can't answer the phone every time, and I'm not going to. I'm not able to, or I will never have time off, and there'll be a burnout for me. Sergeant Close called me. He had to call AJ. AJ was out with his family at pond hockey. He had to go. I had to go. So that's not the way to look at it. You can't look at that. Your husband.
No, I'm just saying if there's an emergency. I'm not saying
Yeah,
for anything.
There's been a lot of
Right.
emergencies. They're becoming frequent, the emergencies. We can't have that too. That's in the past. We got to put that in the past. We need to have guys on so they can handle the call. I don't want to rely on your husband. He needs time off. AJ needs time with his family. That's not the way to look at it. And we can't look at Border Patrol because that's not their mission. We need to have our own meeting and our own man down. That's my position.
So I have a question. So for this budget, so is this budget created with the intent of increasing wages and benefits to make, so you're not even meeting that, so. So.
No, this is grossly under what
So
we
even filling 2, so you're still going to go another year or 2 without filling any positions?
Well,
because
we're in
you're-
contract negotiations. That's what that's gonna be.
Yes.
That's what's happening down that road. This is just reflecting what's in the past. And this will not get us where we need to be. Absolutely
We
not.
Okay, that's
put,
what I
we
was
put in
assuming.
the current year's number as a placeholder. So we can't put anything more in because they're in negotiations. So we put in what we budgeted this current year
Mhm.
as a placeholder. And then they work out any increases like that in the union negotiations. And then once that's agreed upon and contracts are signed, then we'll add it in.
Then you would take whatever that negotiated times 3 people or times 3 and a chief and put that in here.
Is the chief's salary,
The
is that
chief is
negotiated?
salary, so that
His
is,
salary,
that's
that's
the
out,
budget.
that's not.
So we have to address the chief's salary
Yes.
also, correct?
We do.
Yes, you
The
need to
chief's
do
salary.
the chief, but as far as the officers go, that's done in the union.
So does that get
How do you do that?
re-proposed by you? Do you so this, it remains an
So
open
I'll
line?
look at it, yes,
Okay.
with that perspective.
Thank you.
Let's see here. So I'm going to reflect back on the chief's speech at the last public safety awards dinner. Gave a lovely speech.
My speech?
No, this is Chief French's speech, just giving an overview of the police department since he's been chief. And what I clearly recall from the speech was the general turnover in staff before wages even came into play. And if I remember correctly, it was about, a year and a half, we would have an officer and then they'd move on. I think our last 2 or 3, Oxford County, Franklin County SO, because there's just more opportunity there. There's more chance for advancement, canine, detective, et cetera. So, so this came from the chief's speech as far as what he's experienced, in the, he He had 8 years with the town. This was, probably 7 years in. So have you looked into how much it would cost to contract with the county, Franklin County, to cover?
Not formally at this point, no.
I'm just saying, history has shown, unfortunately,
I think
That
past
is-
history has shown, because we've not done anything to address making this the place to become. It's gonna be a lot more money to have the county, why would you wanna go to the county?
it's just
There-
information.
there-
I'm not saying I wanna go with the county.
Well,
I'm just
that's-
saying, how much would it cost to have designated coverage? It's information, Jared. I'm just
No,
doing
I
due
know,
diligence.
no, I know, but I would like to speak. If their wages are higher, if their benefits are better, it's a lot more money. Why not build this place, the place that we can keep our guys? It's a lot of it's wages, a tremendous amount is wages.
So, I mean,
That's a lot of it.
So how do we control that? That's gonna come to us from the union. What if that number isn't large enough to attract other officers?
Well, that's your board of selectmen and your town manager to negotiate that,
That's-
yeah.
yeah, that's
I mean, you-
completely separate from us.
She had a great idea on a pay survey, that's really what needs to be done. And I think that would keep everything honest and get us to the forefront of what we really need. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And that's to compare apples to apples. Like I always tell everybody, don't give me Portland prices,
No.
because they have way more call volume than anyone else. And I mean, they're dealing with a lot more serious stuff. But I mean, we've had in history, record time. I can speak on behalf of basically growing up in this town. And my husband used to be the sergeant who used to run the PD here.
Yeah.
He's, like he said, there's always been an active chief. When Dwight Fuller was here, and Leahy was here, they were all active working on the road, in addition to doing all the other duties that they had. And it's just, that's the part that's gonna have a hard sell. I mean, because I mean, I know you have the policies and stuff like that and procedures that you have to have, because as things are changing, you have the hostage situations, and now you have the shooting situations where you have to work with the school and you have to do all of that other stuff. And then you can bring in the state police for that part too. I mean, it's just the cost part of it in justifying the call volume. I mean, we've had somebody that came into town, he was here for, I don't even know if he was here for a week or anything. He was staying at a hotel, he was a murderer, on the run. I mean, we had 2 people that escaped, from Augusta that were over on the Beams track. So it's getting closer to where we're living.
I lock my door at night, I never used to.
Yeah.
It's getting very close, a lot of it's here, and it's just, I won't, and that can be explained by the lack of coverage, because like Cindy said, 3 years, we can't get somebody, because our guy left for better wages. If you don't give us more money to pay guys, we're not gonna get anybody. It's
Well, I
just-
think location has a lot to do with it too, because.
Well, somebody can't afford to make these wages and live
Right.
here.
And it's such a small area. I mean, and I keep saying over and over again, it would be great if you could get the plantations to get on board and do a shared service exactly like the fire department. But I keep saying that, but no one actually has physically gone to do it. And
I completely agree with you,
Yeah.
because, like you said, the sheriffs they're spread so thin, I mean, they're working their butts off. It should be like
they've
a
got 3
range
people on
region.
shift that's covering, I don't even
It's,
know how
it's,
many
it's
miles.
unrealistic that they have, you're right, and it should be a rangeland region, then have everybody, like, you have the formula worked out. Everybody contribute, and it drops the overall townspeople's budget,
Mhm.
Rangeley people.
Right.
I completely agree with you, and it would provide a better service for everybody out there.
Right. And then it would give them that past I mean, my husband left, I can tell you like, Scott Stevens left, I mean, I could name a bunch of them that all left, and the reason why is because it's such a small coverage area. When they go to the academy, they wanna come back and they wanna do everything that they're learning,
Mhm.
and we don't have it.
I know, I completely
To
agree.
keep that challenge,
I was a
going.
deputy for several years, and I worked for Waterville PD.
Right.
And I came here and it's a different, you need a guy that's
Absolutely.
experienced, that could work his own, but, it can be involved with communication and all these things, but a young guy, it's hard, they do, come to the academy, they wanna go, because they do wanna,
Right.
all of these things.
Yeah.
So we need to, I think, cater towards trying to recruit these, maybe a little bit more seasoned, candidates, but it comes down to money, because we don't have a lot of transfers, we don't have, some of these perks that other contracts have, and again, I mean, that's contract negotiation, but those are things that are missing, that's that's a conversation for that.
Do you think it's very important for community? I mean, community policing is like really important for our rural areas.
There's so much outreach that we need to do. I mean, the chief, he loved the school. I mean, that was tremendously being there,
Yeah.
and seeing them. There's so many, we don't do any of those programs. We don't have the manpower or the time. If we're full staff, that needs to be the push we go, because what it pays back to us it's huge. It's great for the town, and it helps
Right.
with us do our
So-
relationships.
And one of the other things that we used to do as a service that we didn't do, and that's how my husband got into it, is Arnie Allen. He called up Stephen and said, is it something you'd be interested in doing? And they started him out checking camps before.
Yeah, those are things that I would love to do. We could do, if we were full staff, we would be eligible for money, federal money, to do extra patrols that the federal government would pay for, Stone Guard.
Oh, yeah, I know.
There's grants with the Bureau of Highway Safety that would give us extra patrols that we wouldn't have to pay for. But we gotta get to full staff to do
Oh,
that. And
absolutely.
then if we could, then there'd be more money for the guys that would be coming from state, federal,
Mm-hmm.
and that'd be more enticing, and get more presence out there. But there's so much things that we could offer. That's one of the things I think would be great for guys. They'd enjoy going in and doing checks as a detail. And this is, I mean, there's a lot of $1 million homes here that are sitting out there that if somebody, anyway.
Well, they're making like a lot of people that I know, with mortgages and stuff that are down on the Bemis tract and stuff, the insurance, because they're building such expensive houses, they are requiring them to have a security system.
Mhm.
Because they don't.
Joe, is there any financial savings come back from the county sheriffs? That we charged by the county for sheriff services if we were to beef up the police force?
So, I don't know that offhand, but we can look
It
at
makes
that.
sense, right? They have less calls coming here.
I think we pay this money, and I think regardless of what we do, we have to pay for the jail, and we have to give our portion down. I don't think,
Rookie question, okay.
yeah, I think.
Well,
it's-
yeah,
All rookie questions are good.
Yeah, so I
Really
think,
are.
I don't wanna move on before I say this, that included in the county budget is some basic level of coverage. That doesn't mean they're gonna station somebody up here for what we pay for
No,
county taxes. You know, if there were to be station coverage, then that would be a
Well, I
lot.
wasn't asking about that.
Okay,
Asking, will we see a decrease in the cost to the county?
I don't
If
know.
we increase the
No.
local police.
Oh, yeah, no, you would not see a decrease in the county tax.
No.
Pay the second highest in the county, so.
And if we went with county, you would still pay that amount in your county taxes
Plus.
for that coverage plus the coverage for.
Based on, yeah.
That's a big policy discussion. That's not-
Yeah,
that's not this.
But it's not just police that they cover, it's jail, and taking someone and put them in jail, it's cost of housing the
dispatch.
person, yes.
It goes through a lot of-
Court systems and, yeah.
um, All right, any other questions? Any other questions for Jared? So, Joe, I did ask for that information if, regarding designated county coverage and a rough estimate for the cost.
Mhm.
So if that,
Yep, I
Got that
appreciate
figured.
that. I'll see what I can do with that.
Question for Joe.
yeah, go ahead.
So Joe, would you come back and circle back, all depending on how the union negotiation goes for the salary line for the chief position? The only reason why I say it is because, if you have your chief making less than your patrol, that's gonna not be a very attractive job.
I agree. And if your point is taken, it would be, I'm gonna have to think about the timing of it, I don't want to stall this process,
Hmm,
so I can certainly put a placeholder in there. But I'm gonna wanna review it more, it's something I need a little more time with. But your point is well taken, if somebody, is gonna make more, then we'll think about that.
hmm.
Meaning,
It's just, and when you can do a salary survey on that, just like they're doing a salary service. I don't understand why you don't do salary surveys and present it to your union reps, but that's,
Oh, we have.
but we can talk on
have.
a private thing on that, because
Yeah,
that's,
no, we have.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not a board of selectmen
Yeah.
piece. I mean, I'm sorry. the
No,
budget
that's just what I've seen and what I know.
I think, I think I'd like that in there, that I think it's very important where we're moving forward for a chief. It's better to have more money in there than not enough. I spoke to a chief today. I just jokingly said, hey, can we just come up here? He said, you can't afford me. He's making like 130,000 where he is. We're gonna get chiefs that have to have retired and collecting retirement to come here to make that money and live in this town. That's the problem.
You have to have people that want to live here.
But there's a lot of
That's the
people that
thing.
do. This is a great little place,
Right,
but they have to be able to afford to do it, and that's the problem.
and their family, yes.
It's just the housing market, you all know, is just
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
All right, any other questions? All right, next on the agenda, animal control. Which is the last page of the public, no, it's on page 38. Safety continues. So animal control is up $740, which reflects an increase in wages, fringe benefits, and shelter fees.
Did you get one hired?
We do have one.
Excellent.
The previous one left at the end of January, so we do have somebody on staff.
Where do they keep the animals if they happen to get it?
So there's a little kennel out back here for temporary,
Oh, okay.
then it goes off-site to the shelter, depending on the situation.
If they're nice, they run around the town.
Yeah.
Little fuzz therapy here in the office, yeah. And the animal shelter sets the fees, you know, for,
Right.
You have to take, do they have to take them to the animal shelter, or do they keep them until?
I think it depends on each situation, you know, it's specific to each situation, what's going on. If they know the owner's coming in an hour, they
Yeah,
can facilitate it.
our previous one, she was awesome, at getting on Facebook and
Yeah.
getting it out there, and she usually knew who the animal belonged.
Right.
yeah.
We were able to navigate it that way, so, but that was the customer.
Yeah, so there'll be a learning curve, however, the one that's doing it now does have some experience.
Good.
May not be quite as Facebook savvy, I don't know that well. Yeah.
I remember when the PD had to do it.
Yeah,
Cages with the wild cats in them. Yeah, I been there, done that.
Any questions from the budget committee regarding the animal control? EMS is a contract service, so they come to us with the anticipated cost for the coming year. This reflects an increase of $10,092.
Is this just Rangeley, do we know, or is this also get subbed out like fire does?
This is just
Just
for
our
bridges.
But this is a third-party service, and so this is North Star, they have a variety of towns. I don't know if I brought that list with me, but, the original proposal was $10,000 higher than this, and through working with the advisory board, kind of changed some of the levels of factoring in the equation, the formula, the subsidy formula, what they call it. One of them, as I talked about earlier, was the make ready, if you will, readiness fee. It was, I can't remember what it wasn't much, but now it's $4,700 for no matter, you know, what size the town is or what size the area is. So it's gone up significantly. One of the other things that's helped Rangeley and Carabas out is the distance factor has decreased. So distance is one of the factors in the spreadsheet. So, you know, through talking that through with the committee, kind of got more of a balanced approach. You know, it's kind of spread out the costs a little bit differently, so it was less of a jump for the towns that have the highest valuation, which are valuations is another factor too, residential valuation. So Carabas and Rangeley got a little relief because of that discussion. So instead of being 120, it's 110. So it's a $10,000 increase. We do, I've got to get back to the director on this, but we do have a lease of the base here in the middle, so we get some revenue back from that.
Thank you for bargaining us down here, Joe, and,
Dave Coda got it started.
all
Took
right.
us a couple of years, but we got there.
You're still on the board, right? On the board for the,
Yes.
Any questions for Joe regarding the EMS contract? Fire hydrants. No increase reflected there per the notes. So this is a contract service with the Rangeley Water District, which has no relationship to the town of Rangeley. They're their own quasi-municipal entity with their own board of trustees. And then the health officer. Excuse me. It's on page 42, increase of $92 reflected in the compensation line.
Where is the health officer?
She works remotely. She's a very part-time person for us. She's a nurse at the school.
Yeah.
Full time. So she's available to us on call. She
Yeah, it's
typically is.
Mostly an on-need basis if we have a crisis, or the last time we really activated her was during the previous storm where we were isolated. We came up with triage plans and whatever, so.
Yeah, so she works closely with Chief Bacon, who's also our EMA, local EMA director, EM director, emergency management. So they work closely together, but the health officer, can handle a whole variety of things, with pandemics or
Right.
localized. So if there's a localized issue, if somebody has a health problem, not a health problem at their home, but like it's something. Right.
did she do your COVID procedures too?
I did the COVID procedure.
You do?
Would you mean by testing or like?
No, like for like, if someone has it or someone come in contact and then,
We kind of work as a team. The fire department, my office is it's called CLIA, basically laboratory. My office is licensed as a laboratory. We do the COVID testing there, and her and I work as a team. If there were another pandemic outbreak, she may do the message to the community, where we do the legwork. Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
All right. Any other questions regarding the health officer from the committee? Under other business, so Rebecca, I caught a brief glimpse of an email you sent. So there were attachments.
So
And what was that?
you wanted the capital reserve amounts.
Yes.
So that's there. In the body of the email was the loan information, and then you had your agenda for tonight and your agenda for Thursday.
Okay. So I think the only thing that's missing would be the actual salaries for administration.
Oh, I apologize, because you wanted me to break up administration.
Yeah, and then the budget doesn't, because it couldn't accurately reflect the wage line for the town clerk and the finance director position, because that's what went out to vote, but we just need to know the real figure,
And the
Rebecca.
reason, after this, because you guys should start voting on Thursday, I will provide you with updated budget sheets
Oh, okay,
with that information in
Okay.
the notes.
that'd be great. So we'll have the updated budget pack here,
Absolutely.
okay,
There's only a couple changes that were on it, and those were discussed,
right,
so it's what you have except for those.
okay. Any other business that the committee cares to bring up? Shelley?
so on Beltone, they did the first year for free and then it was 75, it's gonna be $75 after that. For the hearing
Oh,
test.
for the hearing test.
Oh, okay.
And last year, did you look at the first responders cell phones, the deal with AT&T?
I don't recall that,
We,
did we?
can I, the first
Yeah.
net? So we did look into FirstNet when the FirstNet tower went up here, and we did contact Verizon at the same time. Their coverage is just not there yet. We lose a little bit out towards Wilson's Mills, we lose a little bit going this way, just to 10. And with our contract talks with Verizon 2 or 3 years ago now, they gave us a government discount, and our phones have been activated for priority access, just like FirstNet.
Okay. Because AT&T was offering the same thing, and I believe they have a contract with the feds to have it so every phone.
But the coverage wasn't as good.
Yeah, in certain areas, so certain parts of the country, it's not AT&T, it's Verizon that has the FirstNet.
Yeah.
So they had an exact matching, I don't know, service plans or whatever. So we pay flat rates for unlimited everything. Sorry to butt in there, I just.
No,
happened to-
thank you for answering.
That's great. So calendar, we've got, one meeting scheduled for Thursday. Did we want to look at scheduling another meeting next week?
I talked about the 27th.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
27th. Does that work?
27th.
Jim, how's that look
I
for
can't,
you?
was that at 4:32?
6, so that'd be a 6.
At 6, that's okay. I got confused because today's 4:30.
Jim, how does that look for you?
We have family in town, but I'll do it.
Okay, so 6 o'clock on the 27th
Here,
here. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
All right, that's Jim's motion. Kitty seconds. All those in favor? And that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.